Hello. Welcome everyone to the Bozeman Community Center Virtual Town Hall. My name is Takami Clark. I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager here at the city. Thank you all for being here and taking the time to learn more about this exciting project. We're gonna kick things off here. I'll transition to our first slide for a sec. I have a number of staff members and consultants who joined me for this meeting, and I'd like to take a brief moment to introduce these folks. We'll start with the staff who are listening and presenting today. First up, I'd like to introduce Chuck Wynn, our Assistant City Manager, if you want to say hi.
Hello, everybody. I really appreciate you being here today. Thanks.
Next, we have John Henderson, our Strategic Services Director.
Hi, everybody. I will be your project manager and really excited to be here today. And thanks again for your time.
We also have Susan Gregory, our Library Director.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really pleased that you're here.
And next we have Mitch Overton, our Parks and Rec Director.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this important project.
And finally, Danny Hess, our Community Engagement Coordinator.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining.
All right. And I'd like to now introduce a couple of our consultants and turn things over to Bill for a second.
Unmute. There we go. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my name is Bill Hansen. I'm with Think One Architects here in Bozeman. We'll be the lead architecture firm on the project. We do have a number of key partners in our effort. Primary is our friends from Anderson Mason Dale in Denver. We've done quite a bit of work with them over the last 12, 14 years. We have Joey Carrasquillo, Stephen Hall, and James Taylor. There's James. We also have Justin Karen on the call. He is with Aquatics Design Group. He's an aquatic specialist located in California. It's a little warmer down there, I imagine, Justin.
All right. And we're here to discuss the Bozeman Community Center, a potential recreation, aquatics, and library hub that we hope to build. We're going to give a brief introduction about what this project is about. We'll share what we heard through the survey and open house, and we'll show how that input is shaping the building thus far. We're going to wrap up our presentation with a Q&A, and that's going to be your chance to ask any questions you might have on the project and what we presented today. We're primarily going to use the Q&A feature on your screen, so please type any questions that you have there. It looks like 2 chat bubbles, and we may not get to every single question today, but you're always welcome to reach out to city staff with questions. And we also want to make sure that we're getting the feedback from you all as well, so please take the post-event survey that's after the meeting. Your browser should redirect to that once you exit, and you'll also have the chance to take that survey again once we send a reminder email out with the link, as well as information on the engage.bozeman.net website if you wanted to take it a little bit later and don't have the time today. And that's just a little bit of the nuts and bolts and agenda for today. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, John Henderson. Again, he's our Strategic Services Director here at the City of Bozeman.
All right. Hi again. Yeah, really excited to be here, and thanks again for your time. For those of you who might be wondering, why combine a bunch of programs like this into one space? There's a lot of good reasons for this. And first and foremost is the fact that both recreation, aquatics, and the library all share a common mission and goal to enrich, educate, and entertain the communities. So there's a lot of similarities and relationships there between these services and programs. So we really want to kind of lean into that and make sure that we're providing a really well-rounded experience for the community as a whole. We're also able to leverage the shared spaces to the greatest extent possible, really maximizing kind of the efficiency of construction and overall costs. And as you might imagine, there's a lot of shared opportunities here for recreation and library to work together in programming. So we really want to, again, leverage to the greatest extent possible those shared spaces. And finally, and certainly last but not least, would be the idea that we can provide the opportunity for residents and patrons to experience services and programs, a variety of under one roof, with maybe just one trip to a facility, and that would further reduce our impact to the environment, just really reducing mileage and vehicle trips in and around the community. Next slide, please. So we've been at this for quite a while. This idea is really born around 2007 in our what we call Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Plan. And this was a comprehensive study that looked at community needs throughout and acknowledged a really emerging need for keeping up with growth and needing to deliver solid recreation, aquatics, and programming space for the community. And beyond that, right, over the years, we've studied this. In 2012, we took a major step forward and performed a feasibility study and market analysis specifically for aquatics and recreation, and we learned a lot. We learned a lot about what these programs might look like, what the community is really poised to benefit from, and we're doing our best to make good on a lot of precedent and understanding of what the community really desires here. We've carried that vision throughout the years here. We've had a couple other very important community needs that have been fulfilled in the time since 2012 and 13, most notably the Public Safety Center, which is an incredible asset to this community, and that was a major investment that we needed to respect and put in line, if you will. So here we are back in 2022 now, following up with those studies and what we could do to better understand the reality of what these programs and facilities might look like. We've done a couple other feasibility studies and space programming analyses with the current library renovations that's underway right now. So we've got a lot of really good current information to use at our fingertips here to really shape, again, what this facility might include. It might be worth noting here that it's been since 1974 since this community has really invested in aquatics facilities. And of course, that was the swim center, which is still in operation today. We're putting some investments into that to try to extend its life as long as we can. But 48 years ago, our population was 19,000, and we've grown considerably. We're at about 53,000 now. So we're overdue, and we need to do the best we can to deliver on the services that this community so deserves and desires. Next slide, please. So beyond just the work that we've been understanding here over the last few years, we recognize there are tremendous community benefits for facilities such as this. Most notably, participation in swimming lessons is associated with an 88% risk of drowning. That's good for the community as a whole. The more we can provide resiliency and safety within our youth and all ages, really, the better off we're going to be as a community, and really acknowledging that reduction of risk from things such as drowning. Access to library programs certainly encourages parents to play a greater role in children's literacy and development, and it's a key factor in helping position our youth and community for success down the road. Wellness, of course, we're talking both physical and mental health wellness here. And there's well-documented studies that suggest, the proximity that residents might have to a facility like this will provide, a higher level of engagement and really an essential strategy for preventing childhood obesity and other, community health issues. The other component here would be just as a community at large, we understand that the stronger we can create a fabric within our neighborhoods, the more resilient we'll be as a community and really adapt to change and be able to manage, change over time. And so there again is good information out there that suggests, a local recreation center such as this is really a lifeline for a lot of neighbors and neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you're wondering where we are in the process, and this is a good kind of depiction of the timeline as it stands. We kicked off this community engagement effort back in January 19th. We had an open house over at the Public Safety Center, had some really great attendance. We had a survey out there at the time that you're going to hear about here in a couple of slides. So we've, the last month or two, we've been really, doing the best we can to bring in information and make sure that there's a lot of different channels for folks to weigh in, and we really need to hear that community need. So that in a lot of ways is going to shape what this project will become. Moving forward into March, we will be bringing a couple of options to our elected officials on March 21st. In fact, and we're going to be asking them to consider kind of a series of options here, and look forward to having them act on a vote to help us really narrow down a focus on what we need moving forward in the process. Based on that conversation, we're going to, like I said, narrow in on what this facility might start looking like, and by April we're going to be able to present what we call a preferred concept design. So on April 26th, actually, we've got an event that we'll be advertising, and we'll make certain that this group and others are aware of that well in advance. That's the date and time where we'll be able to present a little bit more polished understanding and idea of what these programs might look like, really start getting excited about what might be included in a facility like this, and in some ways really kick off an exciting stage of this project where we start learning a lot more about what's possible. In May and June, we take that preferred concept design and we start putting together a cost model. So as you might imagine, with a facility like this, there's a lot of moving parts. We want to make sure that we're estimating costs to the best of our ability. That's a large reason why we have Think One and Anderson Mason Dale on the job here, because they bring an enormous amount of experience in communities like Bozeman and beyond to help us gain confidence in what those costs really might look like. And so we are expecting to have a better handle on what the true cost impact to local households will be around that May-June timeframe. And then by July, we need to be bringing that bond language to the City Commission for their consideration. That's really an important target because we are bound by state law to provide that bond language that ends up on the ballot about 80 days in advance of elections. So there is a very important milestone there in July where the City Commission again will have the opportunity to consider that language for placement on the ballot. And then really a lot of fun happens then in August, September, October. We're out in the community meeting with as many groups as we can possibly reach, making sure that we again provide a lot of different and variety of opportunities for folks to understand what this facility is going to be and really ask a lot of detailed questions about what's going to be included in the programming and really start again getting excited about what's to come. And then by November, that's the election cycle we're targeting right here to get this on the ballot. There will be 2 questions. There will be a ballot for the facility itself. And then there will be a mill levy that will help with staffing and operations and maintenance of the facility. And so there will be 2 questions when we get to November, and really excited to see what kind of response we get from the public at that time. Next slide, please. So throughout all of the conversations we've been having here to date, there have been a number of themes that have persisted throughout. And above all, really, we want to make sure that we're providing a welcome space for something that's inclusive and accessible to everyone in our community. We very much want to acknowledge the the wellness component here and really well-being, where people can strengthen their social, physical, and mental wellness throughout. This idea of lifelong learning, it's really fascinating when you think about, our ability to provide resources and programs that promote exploration, discovery, and curiosity, not just for small children and school-age kids, but for the entire community. All of our demographic really want to, celebrate this opportunity that we all have to continue to grow as a community. And then, of course, lasting, this where, a facility like this will span generations. We're looking at sort of a 50-year plus horizon here, where this isn't going to be just for Bozeman residents today. This will be for their kids and beyond. So we're really excited to be able to deliver something that will be very lasting. Central to all of those concepts is this idea of community connection. And that's really the heart of what you're going to hear about in a lot of the discussion here today, about really understanding, the opportunities that we have to strengthen that connection and for people to meet, come gather in a place that's welcoming and safe and inclusive, and really want to make the most of that ability to provide connections to our neighbors and friends here. There's another really important component before we move on real quick, and that is just our commitment to the climate plan here. And that's over on the side, denoted by some icons that we represent within the chapters of the climate plan. And that is to say, we're very interested and committed to making sure that we fulfill our obligations in the climate plan, that we expect the community to follow with, and that has everything to do with energy efficiency, waste reduction, again, maximizing leverage and shared spaces, multimodal transportation opportunities. There's a lot of relationship there with the climate plan that we want to embrace, and in every way we're going to do everything we can to make sure that what we end up with is really a good steward for the environment as well. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the survey earlier. We had a survey out for a little over a month, and we got some tremendous response, almost 1,400 responses. And it's something that's really notable here is this, what we call a completion rate. And so when we see folks enter a survey like this, it's not uncommon for people to kind of dip out or kind of exhaust their patience, and they kind of move on, and they don't actually finish the survey. And so we were able to measure how many people finished the survey. Well, 88% actually completed the survey. That tells us that the questions that we're asking are relevant, they're interesting, and people are really engaged here. So really excited to see the volume of responses, and you're going to see here in a few more slides, some of the content that we're hearing from the community is critical for us to hear and make sure that we understand our opportunity to shape this project around what the community needs. So the way that we structured the survey was very, I think it was very helpful and telling in the sense that we had people prioritize a variety of items. We didn't ask any yes or no questions. They were really meant to just help us gauge and prioritize all of the amenities and services and programs that the community might want to see in a facility like this. And of course, on the right-hand side of the slide, you can kind of see the breakdown of some of the respondents here. We've got a good cross-section of the community. Really, really proud of, again, all of the channels that we've exhausted to make sure that everybody knows that they have an opportunity to weigh in here. And this information will be available, if it's not already, on our Engage Bozeman platform. And I know at the very end of the presentation, we'll put that link up and make sure that you know where to get a little bit more information if you're interested in digging deeper. Thank you. Next slide. All right, so the last couple slides for me, I just want to say a few more words about what those shared spaces might look like. And this again is really about providing a place for people to gather, a really safe, kind of welcoming environment that folks can come together. And this is some of the results that we received out of that survey. And you can see really top of the list this idea for a public square where it could be a space for holding a concert or a speaker or some kind of a performance. And I can think of an example that we already have, right, at our main library downtown. We've got this beautiful outlay in the front of the building that provides an amazing space for people to come and gather for a variety of events. We'd like to think that maybe there's an opportunity to provide space for a farmer's market on this, in a different part of town. And I think that would be something that that would be of interest to the community. And you can see what kind of response we got, when we put that kind of idea forward. Third down the line here, we've got indoor spaces too. We need places to meet that are, again, open, potentially even free for people to come and host a meeting of their own choice and pleasure. So having a common ground for people to come together and provide those kind of community spaces is really key here. And then we go down the list, play spaces, private meeting rooms, hangout spaces for teenagers, sensory rooms for folks, that might be needing a little more quiet space to enjoy there, and beyond. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide, please. And this slide really just shows kind of a graphical representation of what I just described, so that we can start to get a feel for relatively how large are these spaces. Now, it's important to note these aren't true floor plans. Obviously, these are not square footages. These are just graphical sort of spatial representations of what these spaces might look like. And so over on the left-hand side of the slide, you can see, that town square might be a good amount of space. And of course, we're thinking about access to public restrooms and kitchen space and other needs that would go along with that. And then community room in the middle there, 2,500 square feet of room, that's going to provide enough space for a couple hundred people to get together and gather. That's again much needed within this community. So that's just a kind of a graphical view of what those shared spaces might look like. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan Gregory, our library director. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. What I want to talk about briefly are the results on the survey for the library, and they were very encouraging. We're so fortunate in this community because Bozeman supports its public libraries so beautifully. More than 1,200 people answered this question, and it's really encouraging and exciting to see that almost 92%, 91.59%, said that books are the reason they come to the library. That's what inspires their going to the library. Right behind, activities and events, and John just alluded to that in terms of the program space that we would require in this building to have a variety of different programs and events. The ability to have public meetings in a meeting room is important, and also quiet study spaces and quiet reading spaces. Education is something that people come to the library for, and that comes from classes, from online access, and also quiet reading spaces. Some people come to do research. Many people come for our children's story times. Some people would come to the library based on how close it is to their home or their office. People come to the public library to socialize. They come because it's convenient. It's a workplace for some people. People who work remotely sometimes really just want to bring their laptop to the library and work surrounded by other people. People use online classes. They use our computers. There are a variety of reasons, but overwhelmingly they come for books. Next slide, please. This is sort of an impression of the kind of reading lounge that we would hope to have in this facility. Something warm and inviting, something with a great view of the mountains, a place for people of all ages just to relax and to read. And as John said, we have the shapes at the bottom of the screen. Those don't indicate any kind of square footage, but they do give sort of a snapshot of the kind of areas we would have in a branch library. So we will have an adult collection. We know that a lot of adults come and use the library. We will have a teen collection, a children's collection, space for story time. There'll be a meeting room for people to reserve in the library. Excuse me. Also library staff space. And one thing we're very excited about, a home for the bookmobile. The bookmobile is currently housed every night in rented space. So we hope that we can bring this sort of environment in this project to a wider range of people in Bozeman. Mitch, next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Again, Mitch Overton, Parks and Recreation. I'll be taking the recreation and aquatics section here. I want to talk about a telling survey question that we had about aquatic specific programs that folks would be interested in. And again, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you've got a depiction from our January 19th in-person meeting where we gave folks dots, 3 green for things that were important to them or they really valued, and 3 red for the opposite end of that. And then over on the left, the results of the actual online survey. You can tell here that in the lead is an additional need for lap swimming in our community, and then followed by really some recreational amenities, water slides, and then of course, learn to swim programs. We've got a shortage of those that I think a lot of folks are familiar with in our community. And then again, back to some recreational amenities, beach deck area, lazy river for leisure and floating, play structures, outdoor splash pad, additional play structures with a little bit of differences there. One's outside and one's inside. And then lazy river for walking and fitness. If you're not familiar with that, in addition to using a lazy river for recreational purposes, you can also do fitness programs, walking against the current and getting a good workout that way. Climbing walls over the water, party rooms, right? Shortage of areas in our area in our community to hold children's birthday parties, diving boards, again, back to recreational, and then some instructional and safety activity, such as boating, boating instruction, water safety, boater safety, concessions at the deck, aqua aerobics, scuba, again, with instruction, and then really you can kind of just see for yourself on and on. Really a nice spread of desires here for aquatics. Next slide, please. And then again, a bit of a spatial representation of what that might look like. Same list over on the top right-hand side of a list in priority order that we saw from the survey. And then looking at what that might look like spatially, again, not assigning square footage. You've got a lap pool and a competition pool that would be utilized for both of those as mentioned, but also that could be utilized for things like scuba, boater instruction and practice, in addition to recreation activities in a pool like that. What is, likely kind of in a depiction here is 10 lane, 25 yard. Looking at our Parks and Recreation system as a whole, we're investing currently in our other 2 pools. In the Bozeman Swim Center. Many of you are familiar with that investment. It's a multi-year investment to get us another 15, 20 years of good operation there. And then on the heels of that, we'll be making additional investment into our beloved outdoor pool, Bogart Pool. And then we show again, due to the survey results in our community outreach to date, space for leisure pool / water park type of activities and amenities that really we're hearing the desire for more of that in our community. We've got concessions in there, party room, and then in the lighter shaded area, an outdoor splash pad. So kind of creating some outdoor aquatics connected to indoor to give us that year round, but also ability to open up and have outdoor aquatic amenities as well. Next slide, please. Next, we'll move on to the recreation portion of the proposed center. So, and when we asked the question about what type of recreation activities people would be most interested in, here's what we get: almost 1,300 responses. Yoga and Pilates, weight training, cardio. So again, right on those top three, you're hearing really wellness and fitness type of activities strong there. And then no surprise to a lot of us, pickleball. You know, it's the fastest growing sport in the country, and certainly has a great contingency of folks in the community, and a growing one at that, in a broad age range participating in that now. And that would then be depicted in a potential center by both gymnasium space and then potential outdoor space. Functional fitness, which is really about healthy aging and that ability to stay functional and do your everyday activities in a safe and healthy manner. Indoor climbing, youth camps, basketball, biking, dance, tennis is up there, senior fitness, areas for teens, and then you can see the list going on. It gets a little bit lower, but all important activities. Next slide, please. Now, really important here. We've heard from some members in the community, particularly some of our partners in the community that are private fitness providers, in questions and concerns and some trepidation about duplication of services, potential competition with facilities like that. And we understand that, and we hear that loud and clear. And we want to be very transparent in that an effort here would not to be to create a fitness center and not to be competing with specific providers, right? With specific private fitness providers by any means. And when I say specific, it could be climbing, it could be bodybuilding, what have you. It's really in an effort to augment and, if anything, create sort of a easy access and potentially a feeder program for some of those. Just, you know, right off the bat, I could think of some differences between, say, a private fitness club and a public recreation center, right? That you would find at a private fitness club, but not at a public rec center, right? Spa activities and saunas and whirlpools and executive locker rooms, personal trainers, weights that go to a very high level, frankly, at a private fitness club. And that's not what this is. It's low intimidation, easy access for everyone, and a little something for everyone, right? Again, it's that program space for camps. And I hesitate there because really a lot of that serves as childcare. For example, this past Monday, when we had all-day camps for children, that serves for childcare for working parents. And that's a lot of what happens at a rec center. Now, what's important here is hearing that those comments from the community, and our elected officials have too, from the folks that they represent. What our plan here is to present to our city commission a few options, at least, and let them look at that and help give us direction on where to move forward after that. And and to start to really fine tune what this space might look like. And here's going to be where we're going to ask for help from you all, and with a specific question about helping, take a poll. So thank you, Takami, about what you might want to see. On these options that we present today, we have Option one, which is really what we've heard from the community and what is what we would call the comprehensive rec center. And comprehensive because, again, that's really trying to roll in everything that we've heard from our community. And then being considerate of that concerns from the fitness community, we reduce that fitness option and then make that space smaller. And overall, it makes that rec center space smaller. And then on the third option, we eliminate any and all fitness equipment altogether in the space that was associated with that. So if you would, then this poll is up. If you could take a look at that and then vote on which of these design options you would most want to see moving forward. Takami?
Thank you, Mitch. It looks like we're still having some folks weighing in. So I'm going to allow a couple more minutes, maybe a minute or so, for you to click your vote button and choose the option that you want to see move forward. And if you don't have a chance to do so, we'll also be putting a poll up on engage.bozeman.net as well. So you can always take that and weigh in with your thoughts as well on our post-event survey. All right, I think most folks have weighed in at this point. Thank you all for giving your feedback. It does look like we have a little bit of a mix here. Sharing some results here. Some folks want to see option one. We are seeing that as the majority, but there's also folks who want to see option two and option three. All right. Again, feel free to give us your thoughts in the post-event survey. We'd be curious to hear more from you all. And with that, just wanted to give another reminder that we absolutely need your input throughout this project. Public input is helping to guide which features are prioritized, just as you saw in the past slide, and it's critical to the success of this project. We want to make sure that we're building a facility that truly reflects the community's interests and values. And you can stay up to date on this project by visiting engage.bozeman.net. And again, don't forget to leave your input on this project by taking our post-event survey. A link and QR code are here, but you also should be directed to this after you exit the meeting, and you'll also get this link in an email after the event, and you can always check engage.bozeman.net as well for more information. And with that, I'd like to hand things off to Danny Hess, who is going to run our Q&A section of this presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Takami. And thanks to everyone who has been dropping questions in the Q&A feature. I'm going to run through these questions, and I might sort of lump a few of them together that touch on common themes. So we'll start right here up at the top with a question from Susan. Where is the proposed location of the center? So I'll turn that one over to John Henderson.
Hi, thanks, Danny, and thank you, Susan, for the question. So we do not have a committed location just yet for where this facility will be located. I can tell you that we are having conversations with the school district about really understanding any potential for kind of co-locating and really sharing some space here that that we can all benefit from. So there are other community partners that we'd be interested in having those same conversations with. I think what's important here is just to understand, you know, where we are in the process, really needing to get input about what the facility needs to be. And then we will ultimately find a good location that will provide good access for the community as a whole. So we're leading with really needing to have a good understanding of what the community wants and what they need here. And then we will work tirelessly through all of our relationships and connections to make sure that we end up with a plot of land that's going to be workable here. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And we have a question here also about our partnership with the school district and how they've been involved in earlier studies around programs and amenities that the city offers. So this question touches on how Bozeman School District will participate in the use and possibly operations of aquatics facilities. Maybe Mitch can touch on that one.
Yeah, sure. You know, we do have a great relationship with Bozeman School District, and we partner with them at our current pool, our current indoor pool, I should say, at the Bozeman Swim Center. And we've had some participation and communication with them all along the way. We would love for that partnership, a similar one, to continue into the future, to where we're located close to other schools, right? Gallatin High School, Meadowlark, in that vicinity, and be able to utilize that similarly for health enhancement, water safety, and swim team activity. Now, exactly how they participate in the cost of the building and maintaining the pool has not been determined. Currently, at our current swim center, while they provided the ground, we built, the city built the center, we staff and maintain the center, and the school district contributes to the operations and maintenance of that. So they pay for their utilization of the pool there.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lump two of these questions together. One from Stephanie. Is there any consideration of adding a covering to the outdoor space? That would add that seasonal flexibility and the need for outdoor spaces year round in Bozeman. And then there's also a question about using tennis courts that are adaptable to pickleball so that it can be multi-use. That's from Jana. So I might hand this question over to Mitch again about the flexibility and overlap between different spaces and amenities in the center.
Absolutely. So great questions. The first one, yes, if I'm hearing that right, shade structure for outdoor amenities and activities. And then again, about the Karis Park in Missoula. Absolutely. I think our design team is on this call as well, and we hear that loud and clear and want to make this space as usable and flexible as possible. And we definitely value shade, and it increases the utilization of these spaces. So hopefully I got that one. I think that was Stephanie's. And then the second, pardon me here, my screen, there we go. The next one about tennis courts also being used for pickleball courts. Yes, I think there's a little bit of, there may be a depends here. And what I mean by that is it may depend on ultimately where this is located. If it's located adjacent to tennis courts that are serving in that population, which is very important because we heard that in the survey, then we may be able to augment those tennis courts with pickleball courts, right? Instead of laying lines on top of those tennis courts and increasing the utilization there. However, if it's not located adjacent to where there's already courts, tennis courts, for example, then and again, this has yet to be determined, but I would agree that a multi-use size of a tennis court where you could put, 2 pickleball courts on one tennis court would be a good way to go. So great comments. And I hope that's clear enough. Again, if we're located adjacent to tennis courts, at a minimum, I think to augment those, instead of adding pickleball lines to those tennis courts, add some pickleball courts so we can separate those two high use activities.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah.
So one question here from Pearl. Do you have plans for accessibility in excess of the low bar of ADA requirements, or how will physical access be a priority in design and space planning? And Pearl looks like they have connections to Eagle Mount. So I'll turn this over to John to start out.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pearl. Fantastic question. And I think that speaks to the opportunity that we have as a community here to really go above and beyond the bare minimums of the ADA requirement. As you, I'm sure, noted in a couple of the slides that we presented, we are committed to making sure that this facility is open and accessible to all. And that means needing to really engage with communities so that we understand, what that might look like. So absolutely, just like other components of this project that we want to extend inclusivity, we very much want to know what we can do to improve access, because that's really what it's all about, right? The more community members we can share in this, the better off we'll all be. So I cannot stress enough about the city's commitment to making sure that we deliver on something that goes beyond just the bare minimum requirements.
Thanks, John. And Pearl, yeah, we're really excited to be meeting with Kevin here in the next couple weeks to talk more about that and making sure that this is a really inclusive and accessible place for folks of all abilities. So thanks for that question. Okay, looking at, let's see, a question from Erica touches on the balance between space for fitness options and aquatics. So will the fitness options eat into the space allocated for aquatics? And I'll also tie that in with Stephanie's comment about not being able to afford a gym membership in town and not having access to this type of fitness currently because the only option is private providers. So let's have Mitch talk about sort of the balance between those recreation and fitness components and how this facility might address that gap that Stephanie touched on.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so on to Stephanie's question, that's providing access to some fitness elements this is exactly why this is important at a community center that's easy to access for anyone, and has a very low intimidation factor intentionally, because it's not a fitness center, and it's more of a fitness light already to begin with. And so we very much hear that, and we see the desire from the community and the survey results, and the comments that Stephanie makes are important, and it's important for us to hear exactly what she's saying there. That right it's different. It's a different demographic, and that there's space for both. And I think that's the balance that we're trying to strike here. To merge that in with Erica's comment, the answer is no. The fitness options do not eat into the space allocated for aquatics. And to be very, very clear there, that means that on the options that we showed, the comprehensive rec center option, where it has more space and more in the space that we think reflects what the community surveys are asking, does not make a smaller aquatics portion at all. And then when you reduce the fitness areas, it doesn't change the size of the aquatics portion or the library portion or the town hall or town center portion. It strictly reduces that footprint of the recreation area. So it would not eat into that. And then further down on Erica's comment, I believe she had also some important comments about not having access to out of doors aquatics, having to drive a distance to places like Belgrade and Butte. And so again, great comments. We hear that, and we have heard that to date. And to begin to attempt to solve that with the design team, it's intentionally locating an outdoor splash pad immediately adjacent to the indoor water park area with transparent walls, connections that ideally can be opened during the warmer weather, creating this feel of much more outdoor aquatics, but then also being able to utilize that indoor water park area year round.
Thanks, Mitch. So we're going to shift gears and toss this one to Susan. How many people use the library in town each day? And how does that change during the year or seasonally? How would the collections compare in the two locations?
Thank you. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you for that question. Those are both good questions. To give a really factual statement about library attendance, really, it's kind of important to go back before the pandemic, because the pandemic certainly affected our attendance, obviously. And then now we're undergoing a renovation. So our daily statistics right now are really not a factual representation. We had averaged before the pandemic anywhere from 800 to as many as 1,800 people a day in the building, depending on the time of year and whether or not an event was happening. An event will bring more people in. One of the things that's notable too is that we had begun a pattern in the summer, June, July, and August, of averaging slightly more than 40,000 people a month in the building downtown. And we attribute that obviously to the fact it's a magnificent structure. And the park draws a lot of people. Our sculpture park draws a lot of people. But one of the things about this downtown library that makes it a jewel is the fact that people like to bring their friends and family to see the library. And so that bumps up the attendance, especially in the summer. In terms of collections, obviously the collection in the branch will be smaller than what we have downtown in the headquarters library. We will have materials for adults. We'll have popular reading, and hopefully in our second floor reading area, reading lounge, magazines and newspapers for people to browse, a really healthy children's collection, and access to the collection in the main library downtown. We will have couriers going back and forth between the branch and the headquarters library daily. So for example, you could put a hold using one of our catalogs. You could put a hold on a book at the branch, and then if it's on the shelf downtown, we'll bring it to you the next day. And I hope that answers. That's a great question.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, we've got a couple questions here from Keats, who is a fan of saunas and steam rooms. Is there consideration of expanding access to things like sauna, steam room, cold plunges to the public that can't afford going to spas? And then also Keats is wondering about other precedents in communities that we're looking towards for this project. So I might turn the first over to Mitch and then the second to John.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question, Keats. So certainly therapy is an important aspect of this. Wellness all the way around, fully embracing, encompassing community wellness is an important part of this project. As we had mentioned, Keats, at this point, we are drawing a distinction between and trying to strike, I'm going to use that word again, trying to strike that balance between the private providers and a public provider to where we still offer a good access to a public facility that facilitates wellness, but is not as quite as comprehensive as a private facility and what some of the items that you might find. And I do think some of those distinctions are some of these examples that you're mentioning, such as saunas and steam rooms. And as I mentioned, things like executive locker rooms and the like. So I appreciate it. This is important for us to hear this. This is why we do these types of activities, again, to kind of gauge the community and where you're at for the needs of these facilities.
Thanks. And then as it relates to other models or examples that we're looking at here throughout North America, and it's true, Canada has some amazing examples of what we're shooting for here, but it's not exclusive to our neighbor to the north. We've got a number of projects that we're looking at within the United States, most notably Arlington, Texas, Fruita, Colorado, and with an easy Google search, you can kind of go in there and see some phenomenal photos and examples of shared facilities just like this, where we've got aquatics and library and rec co-located. So we know that this model is successful, and we want to do the best we can to deliver on those kind of community needs in the same fashion. So yes, we are very much interested in exploring other communities that have been successful with this, and we'll do everything we can to learn from their experience and make it even better in Bozeman here, and we'll be another shining example there. Thank you.
All right, just in the couple minutes we have left, we have two more questions here that I want to cover. So first, what is the role of a potential nonprofit or philanthropy to promote and raise funds for the center? And so John, I'll turn it back to you for this one.
Great, thank you, Danny, and thank you, William. This is a very important question. We are so fortunate to live in a community that's very generous, and we well understand the opportunities to leverage philanthropy and really generous donations here to support the project. So it really is twofold here. We are having conversations right now with a couple of foundations and entities that might be able to provide some funding to essentially offset the costs that will be on that bond. And that would be at the beginning of the project. And that would be fantastic if we can just kind of lessen the burden of these costs right out of the gate when we go to the bond. But then really, we're not going to rest there. I'm interested to know, after, and if we're successful with this vote, there will be a lot of opportunity to bring in donations and other contributions to really extend our commitment to the environment. For instance, we can look at even greater energy efficiency and making things that would benefit the whole facility, that might go above and beyond what we can make good on with the bond itself. So again, looking at kind of both ends of the project here and how donations might fit into that. And then moving forward, definitely interested in exploring other opportunities to, partner with a foundation, or, there's other examples that we already have in this community, with whether it's the Library Foundation or the Sports Park Foundation. We know that's a model that works, and we're 100% open to, entertaining that kind of structure in order to really get the most bang for our buck here. Thanks.
Thanks, John. And I think you're on the hook for the next two as well. And then we'll wrap up and encourage folks who have more questions to reach out to staff and find more info on Engage Bozeman. So the first one here, Belgrade is contemplating an aquatic center. Is there a need for coordination between communities?
Certainly, and we have had some conversations about this. the way that we're looking at it, it's really a systems approach, right? The more access to water we can have in our region, the better off everyone's going to be. So it's really all in. We're putting our best foot forward here. We want Belgrade to be successful. We want other entities to be successful. And at the end of the day, I think we can all see a vision for an enormous amount of potential here to provide, again, access throughout the region, and you doing this in a holistic way. So yes, I hope there's opportunity there for Belgrade and Bozeman and others alike to move forward with that.
And then this last question, John, is about the how big of an ask might this be to taxpayers? And I think a lot of that is to be determined based on engagement and the work that we have to do with City Commission. But if there's anything you want to add there, John,
right. So
to wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. So as you've heard, we're really intentionally leading with the desires of the community. We want to hear it. We want to hear from everyone. What would they like to see in a facility like this? And we're going to start there. And then we'll start putting some costs together and very mindfully put that forward to the City Commission, and that's coming up pretty quick here. We hope that by March 21st that we're going to have what we call rough order of magnitude costs that we can provide to the Commission when we're considering all of these options and our path forward. What I can tell you won't be a surprise, right? A facility like this will be a major investment for this community. And so we're looking at somewhere between most likely $75 million and $100 million for the facility itself. Again, we want to lead with what the community needs, kind of back ourselves into something that might be, palatable to the community. I want to make certain everyone hears from us that we are incredibly sensitive to the burden within a community that can be challenging to make ends meet. So in just about every conversation we have, a cost is a part of it. And we need to do everything we can to deliver on the needs, but at the same time, really respecting where people are at and not making this an undue burden. So there's a balance there. There's a sweet spot, and we hope to strike that here in the next couple of months. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Well, that sums up our virtual town hall for today. I know we're a couple minutes over time, so I want to get folks moving on to the next part of their day. But thank you so much for attending. This recording will be up on engage.bozeman.net. That Bozeman Community Center project is highlighted there. And there you can find more information around what's next, those survey results, and how you can continue to stay engaged. With that, thanks so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.